Hello everyone. Okay, so as we said, we're going to be discussing a Space Invader project today called Radius Payment Solutions, which John worked on. Have you got the clicker? Yeah, got a clicker. We need that. So we're going to be looking at the processes involved from start to finish, the challenges that occurred, and how lighting forms part of the overall design in the brief. So John, if you start us off by telling us how you got involved in the project in the beginning and what was the brief that was given to you.
I'll just click onto this slide here. So we got involved through, we'd actually done a previous project in Manchester for a tech business with the project manager that was working on this. So a lot of our work is repeat work, which we're obviously very proud of. Yeah. So we were brought in just to sort of partner with the architect because they were looking at only at the envelope really. And we initially just sort of had a quick look at some space plans and then just sort of produced a concept document of where the look and feel might go. The brief was pretty scant.
Okay.
It was largely, it was just largely based on headcount. Wasn't particularly aspirational in any way, which is, always a good challenge for us. I'll talk about that in a minute. So it became about trying to educate the client and how we can, what he could do aspirationally and sort of, and really drive this project forward. So, and then just as far as the opportunities for lighting, pretty much as soon as we got the plans for this job, it was obvious. There was loads of opportunity. We got this huge atrium that sort of hangs the two wings of the building together. Which we needed to do something in there. A lot of the floor plates had really generous ceiling heights, so there's opportunities there. And then just on the magnitude of different spaces, whilst I say the brief was quite scant, actually the client wanted to put a lot of amenity in there, and a lot of amenity means lots of different spaces. So the use of lighting in that is quite key, really, to set different ambience and warmth and whatever. So.
Okay. So looking at the main challenges of the project, then, what were they, and how did you overcome them?
So.
Here we go. Here they are.
So the main challenge was, and it's not a challenge. I don't want to. Was probably the client, and that sounds bad because the client was great, but he just didn't really sort of see at first beyond bums on seats, and it was about sort of taking him on that journey, and that as a designer that really tests your mettle. This is a guy that started a business from himself, and it's now turning over billions of euros, and he's just got a designer sat in front of him telling him what to do, and it's just really difficult to take him on that journey. We always say design happens with you, not to you, and we took him around lots of sites that we'd done. We took him to AstraZeneca in Macclesfield, and that just really sort of opened his eyes about the art of the possible, really. And I love this slide because Space Invader would never put in something quite so literal into a scheme like that. But what this represents is, as we got through sort of into concept design, it became clear that the client was a bit of a secret sci-fi buff. And we just really latched onto it, and it was just, we sort of managed to weave this in the design. So it's not just about us as designers; it's about his personality. This entrepreneur. There's a little bit of a stamp of him on here, and that's why I really like this slide. So getting him to see the opportunity that he had to create a global headquarters that could really enhance his culture and his brand was probably
the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
Was there another slide to do with challenges as well?
Yeah. So thanks for the nod there. Right. So the second bit I would say is just these are the floor plans here. So that's the ground floor plan at the top, and on that floor there's a gym, there's a lounge, there's a cafe, there's this huge atrium space, and there's a bit of open plan floor space. So it's just sort of how can we create different atmospheres in those off the atrium. A great challenge to have. So that was one I'll talk about in a minute. And the other challenge was this atrium and what to do with it. Because whilst it's great, it's very narrow and it's very high, and that sort of tall, narrow space is quite difficult to deal with. These are just sort of the studies that we did initially to sort of how we came to where we got to. We obviously were looking at how people flowed through that space and how you could put something meaningful in it that would create vibrancy, that would get people to dwell there, that would really activate it, but still, you've got 500 people moving through that space in the morning, so it's got to work from a flow perspective as well. So we looked at putting booths in the middle, didn't quite work. And on the left side there, we put them all together. Just felt really rigid, really boring. Sort of jarred with the space. So then on the right-hand side, where you've got those sort of 3 green shapes, we took these sort of horseshoe shapes and actually faced them so they had an adjacency to the reception, to the cafe, and then to the lift. So they had a purpose in that space. And then we looked at how we could bring that up through the volume. And the key to that was lighting.
Yay!
We came up with this really beautiful sort of horseshoe shape, and these are just some snapshots from the Revit model, which linked all the upper floors and made that space a bit more intimate, but created something quite dynamic when you walked in there as well.
What made you come up with this design then? What was the sort of influence on that? Was it the replicating the seating or continuation?
It was really, you couldn't. Once you've sort of tested it to destruction, it can't really be anything else, because it has to be that sort of shape of seat, because we're restricted on space. And if you did something that jarred them with that shape, it just wouldn't work. So it was just a natural, instinctive thing to just say, right, let's take that, let's extrude it up and break it up. It actually goes small as it gets to the top, so it talks to the architecture as well. So, and that was a bespoke fitting, so really nice.
So what other main lighting considerations were there for this project then, in terms of the different spaces?
Well, there was loads, in actual fact. Pretty much every space, because I touched before about what we tried to do is, because you had this central atrium, we tried to create every single space to have its own feel. So in this particular space, we looked at influences from like a European cafe that you would see off a piazza somewhere in Italy maybe. So the materials reflect that, but then as you go on, I'll talk about the other spaces in a minute, they become a little bit more edgy, something that's a bit more reflective like the Northern Quarter or perhaps something in New York. So it's just trying to create those different, I guess, vibes really, and lighting's key. You can see here, it's this sort of warm cafe culture sort of feel, bringing in the timbers, creating those intimate booths, because it is still a workplace, so people have still got to be able to meet. And then right through, we just had this opportunity to put in a bespoke light fitting in there, and it just brings the whole space together. And as soon as you walk into that atrium, you look in there, you immediately are drawn into there. You want to go and spend time in there. So
how did you balance the decorative and architectural elements? Because obviously you've got quite strong decorative elements, but I'm guessing there's some hidden lighting as well going on, isn't there?
Well, actually not on this one.
Not?
No, there's should be, Mr. Contractor. There should be a perimeter halo in there, which didn't go in. But we actually didn't need it, because there's so much light coming off that central piece anyway. We only really needed to sort of accent it. You can see in the booths where we've got some of the pendants in there. But in some of the other spaces, like here, so this is the lounge. You can just see it in the right-hand side there. This is the sort of more of an edgy feel. It's much more stripped back. That piece of graffiti there it was actually commissioned for the client. When I was talking before about getting the client involved and engaged, we said, why don't we put some graffiti on there? So he was like, yeah, brilliant. So at this point, he was getting really excited about it. So he actually employed, I can't remember the name of the company, 2 girls, fantastic they were. He employed them to do this piece of art, and it was basically radius in the past, radius in the present, and radius in the future. And what you're looking at there is the future sort of. He got so involved that I think he ended up mentoring this company now, and I think he's got shares in it or something. I don't know, but he loved it. So, but you can see here how the lighting played a key part. You can just see the sort of conduits, the sort of magenta conduits that run through the edge there, and where you've got the lights that drop down. So, again, in this, there's not much supplementary lighting. Mm-hmm. We managed to do most of this with feature lighting.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so if we look through the various other spaces, talk us through the lighting in this area.
Yeah, so this is the gym. So this is the further back. So again, this the further away you come off the atrium, the less, I guess, it becomes much more raw as you move through with the exposed surfaces. And this, it's fairly simple. We just used, lighting to zone the different sort of key aspects of the gym, really, which is what you'd find. We saw there was obviously various different areas, and again, we just used that sort of. I guess the strip lighting you would say would just be your sort of the levels that we needed to achieve, and then the feature lighting will be those magenta conduits that just sort of run through and drop down over key areas. And then in the offices here, you can see, we did have to deal with a sort of a standard, fairly vanilla drop ceiling with the lighting, which we couldn't quite get the client away from that. But we did manage to get this sort of feature lighting in the middle, which became a really nice space that sort of linked the two sides of the floor plate together. And we brought in this sort of warm timber because, it is still it is a tech business, but they're still quite corporate in a way. So we couldn't, we can't sort of go too sort of wild on this. But you can see how we've used the colour and in the feature lighting there. So,
Is there anything that you suggested and he was just like, no, it's too far, one step too far?
Well, I don't know if I should say this, but none of the planting in this, so this is what they call biomimicry, so none of the planting in this is real.
Right.
Just to get planting in this project was really difficult, but
right.
I think to put in real planting was just a step too far for him, so we just sort of had to reel it back. So it's this is planting for the hearts and minds as opposed
right.
to clean air, I guess you'd say. And yeah, it's just you can see
that's
all
an
this.
overview of the different spaces. So in terms of the lighting specified, did you work with a lighting designer on this project, and like what benefits did that provide with? If you did?
Yeah, we did. We work with lighting designers on pretty much all of our projects. So this particular one was, I think it was Tyson, but we also worked with Enigma. Luke Hart installs an independent light designer, is really good. So we always kind of bring them in. You can just see it's just so important. There's just such an incremental part of the design team. I think they often get overlooked. If you look at our fees, there is a line that says lighting designer, and then after it says. We recommend that you bring a lighting designer on board. It's just so you need it, and this is a commercial project. When you get into more hospitality-led projects, it becomes even more important then. So we'd always use a lighting designer, and they had so much value.
Yeah, all Manchester-based as well, which is nice.
Yes,
keeping it northern.
Yeah,
not that we're biased. Which brands are specified in this project? Can you remember?
Oh, well,
is that a big question?
Yeah, it's a big question, which I'm going to answer by saying this. I'm going to swerve it by saying there's a lot of bespoke lighting in this. So we pretty much designed it ourselves, quite a lot of it, and we got drawings back through from Tyson. They have their own fabrication, so we're quite fortunate to be able to do that. There are, I couldn't list every lighting product on there.
Are you finding you're doing more and more bespoke stuff with projects, or?
Yeah, we that's the way we work at Space Invader. We bespoke joinery and bespoke lighting and. We're even designing our own soft furnishings now. Okay. The more bespoke it is, no project is the same, and that every project's got to be completely tailored to the client, and it's got to be about quality. It's got to be about design, research led. And the more stuff you can bespoke, the more that's geared to the client, the better, I'd say.
That probably leads on nicely to our closing question when we were going to discuss what advice you would give to a client when they're coming to redesign a commercial space.
I would say don't undervalue it. It can be a massive part of your growth as a business. It can add so much value. Engage with your staff. Get a design team that understands workplace, that wants to get completely involved in you and your business.
Yeah.
Emulate your culture, strengthen your brand. And, don't take the light for granted. It's a massive part of the scheme. So get a lighting designer, get them on the design team as well, is what I would say.
Okay,
so.
Great. Thank you, John. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Helen.